Thank you very much, all of you, for your queries about Iran's nuclear program and mainly about Israel's possible response to this challenge. I'm responding to all of you at the same time by reporting to you on a conference that has been held at Hebrew University a couple of years ago about Iran and the bomb. The participants are people from all over the world, starting with Americans, British, French, Germans, all the way to Russians and people from the Caucasus, countries that are bordering with Iran all over. And the result of that conference was twofold. Two schools of thought emerged as a result of our deliberations. One of them perceived in Iran's nuclear program a very serious threat, an existential threat to Israel and to the Europeans, basically to the world, to the peace of the world. The other school of thought was much more benign and much less a kind of an alarmist approach to Iran's nuclear program. Both schools of thought agreed that the Iranians are trying to acquire the bomb. The question was to which extent they will not go publicly nuclear and not adopt a nuclear strategy. That is to say, use the bomb for political, psychological, and practical reasons that may entail the dropping of the bomb on Israel. As I said, the first school of thought perceived in the Shia version of Islam a very, let's say, radical myth or very radical religion that would be ready under circumstances to use nuclear weapons in order to bring about a new world order, a sort of an Armageddon, after which the 12th Imam will return and Islam will be the winning religion. That is to say that Iran is ready, not Iran, but the Ayatollahs are ready to go very far and even sacrifice most of their own people. The main thing is that they will achieve the destruction of Israel and a position of unlimited power regionally and worldwide. The second school of thought tried to examine Iran's behavior since the revolution and the takeover by the imams or the ayatollahs. And the conclusion was that the Iranians are much less radical in practical terms when it comes to vital interests of the regime. And the best evidence for that was the behavior of Iran during the so-called Iran-Iraq war, which was a very bloody encounter initiated not by Iran but by Iraq under Saddam Hussein, during which the Iranians, the Ayatollah Khomeini himself, declared as their war goal the destruction of Saddam's regime, a regime change in Baghdad, and nothing less than that, until the Iraqis launched intermediate-range ballistic missiles, conventional, into Tehran, that is to say, into the heart of the regime. Until then, the regime was ready to sacrifice many young people who were sent to clear minefields. But the brain of the regime, the heart of the regime, remained intact. Once not a large number of rockets landed in Tehran, the result was that most of the population of the capital of Iran fled to the hills. And Ayatollah Khomeini, the most radical founding father of the radical regime, he capitulated and made peace with Saddam Hussein. That is to say, once Tehran was under attack, a relatively, let's say, not a very serious matter, because the number of the missiles was limited, about 180. The payload was limited to a quarter of a ton, and so on. Even so, the population fled to the hills, and the regime made peace, capitulated. This means, in other words, that the regime is much more pragmatic when it comes to its centers of power. Tehran, the holy city of Qom, and other places that will be wiped out as a result of a nuclear war if they initiated it. And the conclusion was that Iran will be very careful not to adopt an official public nuclear threatening strategy, but keep the existing, let's say, bluff or the existing policy of striving for the useful use of nuclear energy, which is legitimate, basically, and will adopt, or rather acquire the bomb, but not use it in practical terms. It will become a regional power, no doubt, but as a result of it, other nations, to start with the United States, the Europeans, even Russia, will also adopt a policy of targeting Iran. And the question is whether the regime is interested in having every Iranian walking around with let's say, a load of several megatons of hydrogen bombs on his or her head. The regime doesn't seem to be interested in such a situation that will make the Iranians living under constant fear. As far as Israel is concerned, and this will be my conclusion, we have the power to destroy Iran all the way through. I repeat, we do have the power to destroy Iran all the way through, and they know it. Therefore, we, the second school of thought, we do not think that Israel is facing an existential fear, an existential threat, I'm sorry. And on the other hand, it is a matter of our diplomacy to achieve a Western and American-led policy of counter-threat, nuclear counter-threat, should Iran go nuclear. And this is a part of the deliberation between Washington and Jerusalem. So all of you, dear friends, may rest assured. Thank you.